Welcome back to Fusty Stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and get ready for another story you won't forget. Let's dive back to the story. Selena Grant sat in her lavish penthouse apartment overlooking the city skyline, sipping her evening tea as her phone buzzed with excitement. It was an invitation card from her younger sister, Chloe. The card was elegantly designed with gold trimmings and embossed letters announcing Chloe's wedding day. Selena smiled warmly at first, proud that her baby sister had finally found love. Being the eldest, she had always felt protective of Chloe, who often confided in her about relationships, heartbreaks, and dreams of someday marrying her perfect man. Selena herself had married Ethan Blake 5 years earlier, a man she met while he was working as a waiter at a high-end restaurant. Despite his modest background, Selena believed in him, nurturing his ambitions and providing him with opportunities he never would have had. She had molded him into a refined man, and now Ethan traveled frequently, supposedly for business meetings. Life seemed stable and successful, though Selena often felt a creeping distance between them. What Selena didn't know was that fate had crafted a cruel joke at her expense. The groom Chloe was preparing to marry was none other than Ethan himself. Neither Chloe nor Selena had any idea they were tied to the same man. Ethan had woven lies and crafted two separate lives, one as a doting husband to Selena, enjoying wealth and influence, and the other as a passionate lover to Chloe, whom he had met overseas during one of his so-called business trips. With the wedding date approaching, secrets lay beneath the surface, waiting for the perfect day to erupt like a storm. Selena often reflected on her marriage with a sense of pride mixed with subtle doubt. When she first met Ethan, he was charming but struggling, his dreams limited by poverty. Many of her friends had mocked her choice, claiming Ethan only sought her for money. But Selena was a woman of deep conviction and compassion. She gave him everything: lavish clothes, luxury cars, a managerial position in her company, and most importantly, trust. To Selena, Ethan was proof that love could conquer class differences. She imagined he adored her for her heart, and not just her wealth. Their wedding had been a spectacle. Society's eyes were on them, and she felt like the luckiest bride alive. She believed she had transformed Ethan's life, turning him from a waiter into a man of stature. But Ethan was not the fairy tale husband she imagined. Behind the tailored suits and loving gestures, he was entangled in deception. Each time he told Selena he was leaving for a business trip, he boarded planes not to seal deals but to meet Chloe. He showered Chloe with the same attention Selena once received, telling her lies wrapped in sweet promises. He never revealed he was married, and Chloe, blinded by affection, boasted often Selena over the phone about her new mysterious boyfriend. Selena would laugh it off, happy her sister had found someone special, never realizing she was listening to her husband's praises from another woman's lips. The foundation of her marriage was crumbling silently, though Selena remained oblivious to cracks. Chloe Grant was a hopeless romantic, the kind of woman who believed in love stories that belonged in novels. When Ethan entered her life during her overseas studies, she felt she had finally met her Prince Charming. He was kind, attentive, and showered her with gifts she never imagined could come from someone so humble. To Chloe, Ethan was mysterious, an ambitious man who claimed he was working hard to build a future for them both. He told her countless times that she was his only reason to keep pushing, the muse who inspired his every move. Chloe ate up every word, never doubting him for a second. She would call Selena late at night, blushing as she bragged about her new man's devotion, his romantic gestures, and his future plans with her. Selena, unaware of the truth, encouraged her, teasing her about finally catching a good man. When Ethan proposed, Chloe was overwhelmed with joy. She screamed with excitement, calling Selena immediately to share the news. She described how he went down on one knee in a candlelit restaurant and promised her forever. Chloe, glowing with happiness, began planning the grand wedding she had always dreamed of. She wanted her sister by her side as maid of honor, never knowing that her dream day was laced with betrayal. Chloe lived in her bubble of bliss, blind to the storm that would break her heart and shatter her trust in the two people she loved most. Ethan Blake thrived in deception. By day, he was the polished husband of Selena Grant, attending corporate meetings, making decisions in her company, and enjoying the respect that came with her name. By night, or rather, whenever he claimed to be traveling, he slipped into the role of Chloe's devoted fiancé, whispering sweet lies and living a fantasy of passion. He never cared to ask about Chloe's family, nor did he bother with details that might expose him. To him, Love was a game of opportunities, and both women were pawns that secured his comfort and ego. Selena gave him wealth, power, and status. Chloe gave him youthful excitement and the illusion of independence. But juggling two lives wasn't without risks. Each time Ethan flew out, he had to invent new excuses, new business deals, sudden emergencies, or last-minute conferences. Selena, trusting and supportive, never questioned him. Chloe, too blinded by love, accepted his vague stories of being busy with work. Yet deep down, Ethan knew he was dancing on the edge of discovery. He was arrogant, believing himself too clever to be caught. But destiny has a way of unraveling lies, and the more Ethan weaved, the closer he moved the day his carefully built facade would crumble before the women who trusted him. Selena had built her empire with determination and discipline, but when it came to Ethan, her heart overruled her instincts. She dismissed whispers from acquaintances who suggested Ethan's frequent trips were suspicious. "He's growing the business," she would reply confidently, brushing off doubts. She took pride in watching him walk into boardrooms with authority, representing her company as though it was his own. Every time he returned from a trip, she welcomed him with warmth, preparing his favorite meals, eager to listen to stories of the deals he had struck. To her, Ethan was more than a husband. He was her partner in life and business. But Selena's blind trust was a very shield that protected Ethan's lies. While she believed in their bond, Ethan calculated his next move, ensuring he gained more control of her assets and influence. The irony was cruel. Selena's unwavering faith was the rope he used to climb higher, even as he secretly built a new future with her sister. Her world was a fragile glass palace, sparkling on the outside but waiting for a single crack to send it crashing down. Chloe couldn't stop talking about Ethan. To her, he was the perfect man, the one she'd been waiting for all her life. She called Selena constantly, pouring out details of how romantic he was, how secure she felt in his arms, and how serious he was about their future. Selena listened, sometimes with envy, but mostly with joy, because Chloe had been through her share of heartbreaks. It felt like destiny had finally blessed her sister with happiness. "I can't wait for you to meet him, Selena," Chloe would say, laughing shyly. "You'll see why I'm head over heels." Selena would tease her, unaware that her own husband was the man in question. The wedding preparations consumed Chloe's life. She sent Selena pictures of her gown fittings, the rings Ethan bought her, and even the luxurious honeymoon plans he suggested. Selena's heart swelled with pride. She imagined herself sitting in the front row, smiling at Chloe walking down the aisle. It never crossed her mind that her presence at the wedding would not be one of celebration, but of devastation. The night Ethan proposed Chloe, he felt untouchable. He rented out a rooftop restaurant with glowing lanterns and soft violin music playing in the background. Dropping to one knee, he presented her with a dazzling ring, a piece he purchased using money funneled from Selena's accounts. Chloe gasped, tears streaming down her face as she whispered yes without hesitation. In that moment, Ethan convinced himself he could maintain both lives indefinitely, that his cleverness would shield him from consequence. He kissed Chloe passionately, promising her a future full of love, adventure, and stability. Chloe floated on cloud nine for days after, showing off her ring to her friends, bragging about how perfect Ethan was. She imagined Selena meeting him on the wedding day, excited for her sister's approval. Ethan, however, had grown careless in his arrogance. He didn't even ask about Chloe's family, didn't bother to wonder who her siblings were, or if his double life might collide. For him, the wedding was just another stage, another lie to deepen his control over two worlds. But fate had already set the stage for his downfall, and the cracks in his empire of lies would soon be exposed in the most humiliating way possible. As the wedding drew near, Selena noticed subtle changes in Ethan's behavior. He grew more distracted at home, often glued to his phone, smiling at messages she never saw. When she asked about his trips, he grew defensive, brushing her off with vague explanations. Though her heart trusted him, her instincts began whispering doubts. Sometimes, when Chloe described her fiancé, Selena felt strange similarities between Ethan and this mystery man. She laughed off the thought, convincing herself it was impossible. Her husband was too busy, too established in their life, to be the man Chloe described. Still, unease lingered. Selena decided she would meet Chloe's groom before the wedding. But Chloe, swept away by romance, insisted it should be a surprise. "You'll love him when you see him at the altar," she promised. Selena reluctantly agreed, not wanting to spoil her sister's joy. But in the quiet of the night, she wondered, why did her heart tremble whenever Chloe spoke of him? Why did it feel like the universe was playing a cruel game she couldn't yet see? The day arrived with grandeur. The church was adorned with white roses and golden ribbons, the air filled with the scent of fresh blooms and the soft hum of wedding music. Selena walked in elegant in a navy blue gown, proud to stand by her sister's side. Guests filled the pews, whispering in admiration of the decorations and the anticipation of the ceremony. Selena felt a mix of joy and nerves, excited to finally meet the man who had stolen Chloe's heart. She adjusted her hat, scanning the altar as the groom walked in with confidence. Then her world shattered. Selena's breath caught in her throat, her eyes widening in disbelief as she recognized a man in the tailored suit. It was Ethan, her husband, the man she had loved, trusted, and built her life with. He stood there, waiting to marry her sister. Selena froze, her heart pounding in her chest as the truth struck her like lightning. The whispers of suspicion she had ignored now screamed in her ears. She gripped her purse tightly, her body trembling, as betrayal wrapped around her like ice. The wedding had just become a battlefield of secrets waiting to explode. As Chloe approached the altar, radiant in her white gown, Selena could no longer hold back. The entire church seemed to spin as she rose from her seat and walked down the aisle, her heels clicking against the polished floor. Guests turned, murmuring in confusion, as Selena stopped just a few steps away from Ethan, his face drained of color, his mouth falling open in shock. "Selena," he whispered, barely audible, his perfect facade crumbling. Chloe paused, confusion clouding her joy. "What's going on?" Chloe asked, glancing between her sister and her groom. Tears filled Selena's eyes as she faced her sister, her voice breaking. "Chloe, this man you're about to marry is my husband." Gasps erupted from the crowd, whispers spreading like wildfire. Chloe's bouquet slipped from her hands as she stared at Ethan, then back at Selena, disbelief etched on her face. Ethan stammered, trying to explain, but his lies had finally cornered him. The fairy tale wedding had turned into a nightmare, and the man who thought himself invincible stood exposed before the very women he had deceived. The storm had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. The silence in the church was suffocating. Chloe stood frozen, staring at Selena with wide eyes, her dreams shattering in an instant. The man she thought was her perfect fiancé, her knight in shining armor, was in fact her sister's husband. The words echoed painfully in her mind, "my husband." Guests whispered, some covering their mouths in shock, while others shook their heads in disbelief. Chloe's lips trembled as she turned to Ethan, searching for a denial, a desperate hope that this was all a mistake. But the guilt written across his pale face confirmed the truth. Rage and heartbreak consumed her. She felt humiliated before family, friends, and most of all, before the sister she had idolized. Her tears spilled freely as she backed away from Ethan, the weight of betrayal crushing her chest. "How could you?" she whispered, her voice breaking, though loud enough for all to hear. "How could you do this to me? To us?" She collapsed onto a pew, sobbing uncontrollably. Selena knelt beside her, wrapping her arms around her sister. Despite her own heartbreak, Selena knew Chloe's pain was deeper. She had been living a lie, bragging about the very man who was destroying their bond. Selena stroked Chloe's hair, whispering, "It's not your fault, Chloe. You didn't know." Ethan, standing alone at the altar, realized his empire of lies had collapsed in a single moment, leaving him with nothing but disgrace. Ethan stumbled forward, his voice trembling as he tried to salvage what was left. "Selena, Chloe, please. Listen to me. It's not what it looks like," he began, though his words sounded hollow against the undeniable truth. "I never meant to hurt either of you. I love you both." His confession sent a ripple of disgust through the room. Guests murmured louder, some shaking their heads in shame. Selena's eyes burned with fury as she stood, pulling Chloe to her feet. She glared at Ethan, her voice sharp like steel. "You don't know the meaning of love, Ethan. You're nothing but a parasite who feeds off trust and destroys everything in your path." Chloe's sobs grew harsher, and she spat through her tears. "You lied to me every single day. You stole my dreams, my dignity, and you turned me into a fool in front of everyone." Ethan fell to his knees, reaching for them, but both sisters stepped back. The church no longer felt like a sacred place. It was now a stage for betrayal's grand reveal. Selena turned to Chloe, her voice calm but decisive. "This wedding is over, and as for him, He's no longer a part of our lives. Ethan's eyes widened in panic as he realized he was losing everything, his wealth, his status, and the two women who had given his life meaning. That night, Selena returned home with her sister. The penthouse that once felt like a palace now felt like a cage filled with lies. She stormed into Ethan's study, pulling out files, documents, and keys to the properties he had been managing. Every luxury in his life had come from her generosity, and she intended to take it all back. Her heart ached, but her determination was stronger. She would not let him walk away unpunished. She called her lawyer immediately, instructing him to revoke Ethan's access to her accounts and strip him of every asset tied to her company. When Ethan finally arrived, desperate and broken, he found Selena waiting. Her once soft gaze had turned to stone. "You thought you could build an empire on lies, Ethan," she said coldly. "But I built you, and now I will break you." Ethan dropped to his knees, begging for another chance, tears streaking down his face. But Selena's heart was sealed. "You used me. You used my sister. And now you'll see what it feels like to lose everything." She turned her back on him, leaving him sobbing on the marble floor. For the first time, Ethan truly understood what it meant to be powerless. Chloe struggled to recover from the humiliation. Everywhere she went, whispers followed her. Friends who once envied her engagement now pitted her. The shame was unbearable, but what hurt more was a betrayal of her own heart. She couldn't comprehend how she had been so blind to Ethan's deceit. Nights were sleepless, filled with haunting memories of his touch, his promises, his lies. Selena stayed by her side, comforting her, reminding her that none of it was her fault. "You trusted Chloe," Selena whispered, "and trust is not a weakness." He was the one who failed. Slowly, Chloe began to heal. She threw away the ring Ethan gave her, deleted his pictures, and blocked his number. The process was painful, but it gave her a sense of closure. She leaned heavily on Selena, grateful that her sister still stood by her despite everything. Though scars remained, Chloe promised herself she would rise above the pain. She refused to let Ethan's betrayal define her. What once was a wedding day of dreams had turned into a day of awakening, a day that bonded her to Selena in a way nothing ever had before. Ethan's world collapsed faster than he could comprehend. With Selena's lawyers working relentlessly, he lost access to every property, car, and account he once flaunted. The respect he commanded in boardrooms vanished overnight as news of his scandal spread. Former colleagues avoided him, whispers of betrayal and humiliation echoing in every circle. He was stripped of everything, left with nothing but the clothes on his back and the memories of the empire Selena had built around him. For a man who once strutted like a king, he was now nothing more than a beggar in the ruins of his own deceit. He wandered the streets aimlessly, his pride shattered. Each time he saw a luxury car or a man in a suit, bitterness twisted his gut. He remembered the nights Selena welcomed him home, the warmth she gave him, and the love Chloe once showered on him. Now, both women had turned their backs, and rightfully so. Regret gnawed at him, a cruel companion he could not shake off. He tried calling Selena, sending her desperate messages, but they went unanswered. His arrogance had cost him everything, and all he had left was a haunting realization that he had destroyed his own life. Selena, though heartbroken, found strength in her pain. Betrayal had scarred her deeply, but she refused to let it destroy her. Instead, she poured herself into her work, expanding her empire even further. Her name grew more respected as a woman who survived scandal with grace and power. To the public, she was a symbol of resilience. Privately, she battled the loneliness of nights once shared with Ethan, the echoes of laughter now replaced with silence. Yet she held her head high, knowing she had made the right choice. She also focused on Chloe, ensuring her sister found healing and comfort. They spent weekends together, traveling, laughing, and rediscovering the bond they almost lost. Selena realized that while Ethan had taken much from her, he had also inadvertently given her something priceless: clarity. She saw now that true strength was not in holding on to what betrayed you, but in letting it go. Selena vowed never to let anyone exploit her trust again. Ethan's memory became a lesson, a scar she carried proudly, proof of the storm she had survived. Chloe's path to renewal wasn't easy, but it was transformative. She began focusing on her career, channeling her energy into personal growth. She enrolled in new courses, explored passions she had once abandoned for Ethan, and rebuilt her self-esteem piece by piece. Selena supported her, cheering her on at every milestone. For the first time, Chloe felt independent, no longer defining herself through the lens of love or relationships. The pain Ethan caused was slowly being replaced by a sense of empowerment. She started volunteering at a local women's support group, helping others who had faced betrayal and heartbreak. Sharing her story wasn't easy, but it gave her purpose. She realized that her scars could inspire strength in others, that her humiliation could become a beacon of resilience. Though trust remained a fragile thing for her, Chloe opened her heart to the possibility that one day, true love might find her again, this time without lies or betrayal. Ethan was no longer a chapter she mourned, but a lesson she carried forward. Ethan, now destitute, found himself at the mercy of people he once looked down upon. The arrogance that once defined him had crumbled into desperation. He attempted to confront Selena one evening. Standing outside her office in the pouring rain, drenched and shaking, he begged to see her. "Selena, please, just give me one more chance," he pleaded when she finally emerged. Her bodyguards blocked him, but Selena raised her hand, allowing him to speak. His eyes were swollen from sleepless nights, his once polished suit now ragged. "Everything I had was because of you," he admitted, his voice cracking. "I was a fool. I lost sight of what mattered. Please, don't leave me like this. I need you." Selena's gaze was cold, her heart unmoved. "You needed me when you betrayed me. You needed me when you lied to my sister. But I no longer need you, Ethan. I've moved on." She turned away, leaving him broken in the rain. It was a final blow, the death of any hope he had left. Ethan sank to the ground, his sobs drowned out by the storm, realizing he was utterly and irreversibly alone. Months passed, and the wounds slowly began to close. Selena found peace in her solitude, realizing that happiness didn't require a man by her side. Chloe, too, had rebuilt her life, her laughter returning, brighter and freer than before. Together, the sisters stood stronger, their bond unbreakable. The memory of the wedding disaster faded into the past, a painful story that had shaped their futures but no longer defined them. Selena's empire thrived, Chloe's career blossomed, and the weight of betrayal no longer shadowed their every step. For Ethan, life became a daily struggle for survival. He drifted from job to job, a shell of the man he once was. Whenever he saw Selena or Chloe in newspapers or magazines, radiant and successful, he was reminded of what he had lost. Regret gnawed at him, but he knew there was no redemption waiting for him. His story ended in the shadows, while theirs continued in the light. In the final chapter of their ordeal, Selena and Chloe celebrated a new beginning. They hosted a gala event together, raising funds for women's empowerment initiatives. The hall was filled with influential figures, all admiring the sisters who had turned tragedy into triumph. Selena, dressed in a flowing silver gown, gave a heartfelt speech about resilience and the strength of women who refused to be broken. Chloe stood beside her, proud and radiant, a testament to survival and renewal. The applause was thunderous, echoing like a victory anthem. As they stood on stage, hand in hand, both sisters realized they had been liberated, not just from Ethan, but from the illusions he had spun. They were no longer victims of betrayal, but authors of their own destinies. The man who once tried to control their lives was nothing more than a distant memory. Together, Selena and Chloe stepped into the future, stronger than ever, knowing that love may fail, but sisterhood endures forever. Their story wasn't one of ruin, it was one of rebirth. That's all for today. Like, subscribe, and see you in the next episode. Stay tuned.